Hey folks, Twisted Christian. I just want to discuss a little bit about some breaking news. The way I look at it anyway, is that the Fed Chairman Powell met with the Coinbase CEO. And I think that's very important in everything that we are looking for. And I've kind of changed my tune in the way that I'm kind of fine tuning the way that I'm looking at the global currency reset, since now that I believe that the central bank digital currencies will be a part of the global reset. Whether or not it starts when central banks start going online with CBDCs, or maybe the Western and European countries that are ahead of the game, and some Asian countries that are ahead of the game, may actually go online first before any of this happens. So right now I'm just looking at the central bank digital tracker, and it just kind of gives you an idea of where things are. And then you can do your own research and look at individual countries to see what they're doing. But at some point, hopefully soon, we will hear something about Iraq and the central bank digital currency, because I think that's going to be important. And the longer they stay silent about it, the more and more I anticipate some type of news down the road concerning the Central Bank of Iraq digital currency. So Fed Chair Powell met with Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong and crypto dad Chris Giancarlo at a time of heightened interest in digital coin trading. So to me, this was pretty big, considering that I'm starting to look at central bank digital currencies and how they're playing a role, how they will play a role in the global currency reset. Fed Chair Jerome Powell met Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong on May 11th, a calendar entry shows. So first of all, it's interesting how almost 2 months later we find out about this meeting, and we don't know what is being discussed in these meetings, which if you are, especially if you are an American citizen, you're like, okay, well, why are they meeting? And why can't we know what was actually discussed in those meetings? So there's no transparency with that. So that kind of also makes me start to think, starts to make me think about, okay, what is going on? What's cooking? What could come out of all of this? We know that regulations are coming, and regulations are supposed to benefit the investor. And my belief is that when those regulations are starting to be announced, I think that crypto will drop, and I think there's going to be a great opportunity to buy. It might be a flash crash. Who knows at this point? He also virtually met with former CFTC chairman Chris Giancarlo, known as Crypto Dad, for his early adoption of digital assets. The Fed is exploring issuing a digital dollar with a paper detailing its implications due this summer. Right, so things are starting to kind of heat up, and the central bank is reacting to what's going on with Bitcoin. So whatever you think about Bitcoin itself, the central banks do not like Bitcoin at all. And first of all, because we know that it can't be controlled. But of course, we know that the central banks are taking more interest in those companies like XRP and Ethereum and several others. So also in this meeting with Powell and the CEO of Coinbase, also too Paul Ryan, which kind of also piqued my interest because we haven't heard anything, and he was kind of he became kind of really hated among the core of the Republican Party. Knowing that he was in that meeting does bother me a little bit, but I think in the end of all this, we'll see. Some people talk about that there's going to be like a fake RV, and I do understand that. But I think whatever in the end of it all, whether they do the RV at the launch of CBDCs, or some of them launch and then down the road, maybe then Iraq launches their CBDC and then they revalue. Or they could all go online and the economy could crash because it's not really working like they thought, and then we could have our RV. So there are many different scenarios, and I'll probably do a specific video on that. So this meeting lasted about 30 minutes, right? So in this meeting, they're basically speculating. They probably talked about regulations. So to me, this meeting was very important. It's almost like, and I'm not sure if a lot of people see it, maybe in the way that I see it, but it's almost like you have the head of the central bank meeting with the CEO of one of the largest crypto trading platforms, almost kind of like he's meeting with one of the top crypto banks. But of course, they do talk about, possibly could have talked about regulation. But what I wanted to talk about, that Coinbase survival is basically going to be based on regulation. You see what they're doing to Binance, and they don't want that to happen here. So the CEO of Coinbase, Mr. Armstrong, may have courted the Federal Reserve and said, hey, and maybe he said, hey, let's launch, the digital dollar on Coinbase, or vice versa, where they said they have a plan and they want your input on the Cbdcs and the crypto trading platforms. So, and this other guy that I've actually never heard of, Crypto Dad, Chris Giancarlo, I've never heard of him before, but obviously he's a pretty big, powerful name in the cryptocurrency industry. And so it would be interesting to know what they actually talked about too as well. All we know, as far as speculation-wise, is just about regulation. But I'm just going to kind of go on a limb here, and maybe at some point, maybe Coinbase will adopt central bank digital currencies. And maybe that's one of the topics that did come up with that. And of course, who knows, But remember, Coinbase survival is based on, regulation. Because if cryptocurrency is too heavily regulated, people are going to get out of it. And it's going to hurt the cryptocurrency industry if there's too much regulation. So I said in the video that when these regulations happen, that cryptocurrencies are gonna basically crash, and that there's going to be some type of maybe a flash crash, and there's going to be a lot of exchanges that are not going to be operating when these regulations start taking effect, and people are going to have to start pulling out their cryptocurrency. But also listen to this too as well, because this is what happened to me. And I was on a cryptocurrency exchange and it shut down. And in the midst of me transferring everything that I had earned, and they stopped all my transfers, and they didn't respond to me for like 3 months, through my emails. They kept saying that I had a certain amount of time to withdraw it, and of course I did. I showed them, all my screenshots of my account and when I was transferring it. So if for you guys who are listening out there, when regulation does happen, you might see some exchanges shut down. When you look at Binance, right, you see everything that's going on with Binance and how they're restricting, all these different things, and they're banned. They've been banned in some countries. And that could actually happen to an exchange that you might be on. And I don't see that happening with Coinbase. I don't see that happening with Webull or Robinhood or anything like that, as far as on a mass scale. But whatever regulations do come, all these trading platforms are going to have to comply to all the regulations. And more than likely, most of those regulations probably won't take effect until January the 1st. So I'm really pretty excited about this meeting, and hopefully we do get more information about this meeting. But like I said, folks, I don't know how things are going to happen. And everything with the Cbdcs is just been throwing in there, because we just thought for a long time that the central banks just didn't want to deal with it. They didn't want to they didn't want to do cryptocurrency. They really wanted to keep things the way that they were. But because of demand and the change in technology, it's what people are wanting, and so the central bank has to respond to the cryptocurrency markets, and they're doing that with the central bank digital currencies. But it'll be interesting to see how all this plays out, because we could very well see central bank digital currencies on Coinbase in the future. So folks, tell me what you think down below. Comment in the description, give a like. I thank you folks for listening. God bless.